Chapter 1. Overthinking, a sword in relationships. Overthinking, also best known as creating problems that are never there. David Sikosana. Whose mind goes on tours when they're alone at any time of the day? Yours. Whose mind takes the express train through lands, seas, and mountains? Yours. If you've identified yourself in both of these scenarios, sweet, you definitely qualify for this ride. We've all been there at some point, trapped in the overthinking spiral. Some are still in it. No shame there. Downslopes in relationships are at the heart of many hurts that we go through as individuals. But what's at the heart of those downslopes? Suspiciousness? Insecurities? It's human to have thoughts. It's expected and even healthy. You aren't a robot. You need thoughts to make your day-to-day decisions, and it's normal to act on your thoughts. The thought of a certain special someone may pop up now and then in your mind, like a phone notification. Except this notification isn't bothersome or a thorn in the flesh of your focus. You revel in how sweet and special this person is to you. You daydream about the present and about the beautiful future of togetherness that awaits you. Until the missiles of what-ifs and maybes attack your blissful ride. Thinking is good. Imagining is good. Yes, even getting lost in your thoughts is okay from time to time. The dicey part involves one thing and one thing only: the content and quality of your thinking. What's overthinking all about? Everyone who has a soul is able to think. In fact, thinking is crucial to being humane and rational. But, and here's the big but, there are times your thinking oversteps its bounds. One minute you thought your partner was the best person in the world. The next minute, you think she or he is a villain of some sort. Soon, you both are trying to fix broken parts of your relationship because of some thought that popped into your mind. Pretty miserable, isn't it? Have you ever caught yourself creating some masterpiece of anxious thoughts in your mind that revolves solely around a change in the tone of a person's voice, their attitude, or the words they use? Like involving no real facts, just your perception of the situation? Well, have you? Sure you have. I mean, why else would you be reading this book? Bingo! For example, you might wonder why someone's voice seems lower than normal, leading you to think about why he or she didn't add your name to a morning greeting like other times. Yikes! What torment! You then begin to read between the lines, investigating things that should have been allowed to just die in a quick natural death. But no, you dwell far too long on your suspicions and assumptions, get moody and cranky, and start seeing unreal realities. Patterns like these are all too common with people who are letting overthinking ruin their relationships. With time, a feeling of resentment that you never intended to have begins to build up inside you towards your loved one, and accusations eventually set in. Depending on how far your mind has traveled on that non-issue, overthinking has the capability to ruin things for you completely. You'd be shocked. When you start to sense that your thoughts are beginning to spiral out of control and you're obsessing over little things, whether they were done or not done, said or not said, it's indeed time to rein in your brain. Understandably, overthinking can be born out of past experiences. Maybe you were ghosted by someone in the past, and it was only later you began to realize all the signs that were playing out right before your eyes. That might have contributed to your becoming someone who finds it difficult to take anyone at face value. In other words, it's hard to ever trust again. It might be that you often replay conversations in your head, then beat yourself up every second for not giving the perfect retort to that bully at work. Yeah, the list seems endless. It would be unfair to ignore the fact that past experiences can mold your identity and perspective. Past experiences can affect your interactions with others. It gets really bad if you're a victim of abuse. I empathize with you. I really do. It's not your fault that your views about life and certain groups of people have been distorted by an experience that left your heart and mind scarred. Trust me, I know it's frustrating when you can't help but see the worst in a situation or person, even when that person has good intentions. If you see how overthinking can affect your relationship, leaving you with more hurt, you can take that huge step towards changing the pattern of your thoughts. How overthinking and anxiety affect your relationship. Overthinking and anxiety can have devastating effects on relationships that start out with so much promise. Overanalyzing can wreck mental health and leave you and your partner hurt. Your partner will feel grossly distrusted when you see everything wrong in every single thing they do or say, or don't say. Real quick, let's move straight to the non-negotiable things that happen to your relationship when you overthink. You probably already know these, but it makes sense to list them out here at this point, just in case you actually don't know how rapidly overthinking can make your relationship into a huge mess. 1. Lost trust. No one enjoys being mounted with heaps of accusations. Your pessimism and paranoia will definitely wreck the heck out of your communication level. When your communication is lost, loopholes are created for mistrust to grow. Simple. 2. Mental exhaustion. Your significant other is liable to become exhausted when they have to explain and re-explain everything to you. They will no doubt become exasperated about the conclusions and assumptions that you come up with perpetually. This is the point where they begin to avoid having conversations with you or even avoid you completely. No one enjoys being subjected to constant interrogation about whatever accusations your mind has concocted. And if you continue doing this, you'll end up feeling exhausted yourself. 3. Constant conflict. Constant confrontations and overanalyzing make you come across as a cranky, unhappy person who's looking to pick a fight. If the other person isn't comfortable with your accusations, a counter-confrontation is bound to occur, leading to deeper conflict. Words that you never meant to say can be forced out of your mouth in that state of anger. 4. Inability to live in the moment. Your what-ifs and maybes are keeping you from creating beautiful memories with your spouse. You'll often end up ruining the present that promises to lead to a beautiful future. The moment you start second-guessing everything, you won't enjoy your relationship anymore. A relationship that's meant to make you happy can become the reason for constant bouts of anxiety, all thanks to your overactive mind. 5. Reliving past traumas. As a victim of trauma, it can be difficult to accept the beauty and goodness that's in front of you. It can seem too good to be true that your life is going well. Give overthinking free rein, and pretty soon it'll seem reasonable to start self-sabotaging. Your emotional well-being, and that of others, is affected when you replay your trauma in your head and use that old brush to paint those who want the best for you, especially if it's your spouse. As they say, hurt people hurt people. Don't allow past trauma to become your current reality. 6. Frustration and constant fights. When you find yourself picking fights about the minutest of things, you have most likely become sad and anxious. At some point, you might even loathe your present self and begin to wonder how you got to that state. From self-loathing, depression sets in. Of course, the resulting breakdown in your relationship will leave you even more frustrated. 7. Health problems. Are you the type who never vents or lets out some steam? If all you do is keep mute and allow those poisonous thoughts to eat you up, guess what'll follow shortly thereafter? Yep, health issues. When anxiety sets in, the body often responds with increased heart rate, nausea, decreased immune function, low sex drive, chronic exhaustion, and so on. You can't enjoy your relationship if you aren't healthy yourself. Your body responds to what your mind tells it. Clearly, overthinking does more harm than good. Scratch that. Overthinking does no good. This is not to remind you of or make you feel regret about your past relationships that didn't work out, possibly due to overthinking. This is just a step in the right direction, identifying the problem and the havoc it has caused and seeking a way out. That's exactly why you're reading this book. Signs that you're hyper-analyzing specific parts of your relationship. Hyper-analyzing your relationship is one sure way to demolish all the bricks of trust and harmony you've built together. You use the poisonous what-ifs, maybes, shouldas, and wouldas to dissect everything that might be wrong in your relationship. You could win first place in a math competition if you considered applying that hyper-calculative part of your mind to a more useful pursuit, you know. Here are some signs that you're hyper-analyzing your relationship. You see no as a total rejection. This attitude screams 6-year-old who doesn't take no for an answer. You've probably seen or heard of a kid who cries and whines about not getting the answer they want. If you're reacting like this, but the grown-up version, you've got to change your mindset. Life won't always give you what you demand, and neither will the person you're married to. Before you take offense, ask yourself, do I say yes to everyone, always? And when I say yes, do I sometimes wish I had said no? There are times you say yes and realize it's to your own detriment, right? Now, where am I going with this? 1. A no could be because what you're asking is not convenient for your partner. Respect that, and remember the times they've come through for you. Don't allow your selfishness to ruin your relationship simply because your partner is unable to agree to your needs at a certain point in time. 2. It could mean your request triggered your partner the wrong way, and they'd rather maintain whatever boundaries they've set. If your partner feels uncomfortable, let it go. A peaceful relationship is a bad sign for you. Were you raised in a toxic environment, ridden with conflict? You might have grown to believe that a relationship must be dramatic. This is a wrong perspective about love. Love doesn't have to be tough. It doesn't have to be nasty and dirty. It might come with challenges, but the goal is to recognize that the enemy is the challenge itself, not each other. You apologize too much. Yes, there's such a thing as apologizing too much. Apologies happen because you did something wrong, right? If you're always making the wrong moves, you'll always have to apologize. And that can be a wake-up call to examine your thinking patterns, since actions are controlled by thoughts. Sometimes, however, it's not that you're actually doing all the wrong things. It's just that you think that you are. If you have a string of failed relationships, anxiety might develop at the beginning of a new one. You might then overthink your actions and feel you must be doing something wrong. This might be a result of emotional abuse you experienced at some point in your life, where someone degraded you verbally. They may have told you that you never do anything right, for example, making you jittery and full of apologies for things you shouldn't have to apologize for. You're afraid your partner might leave you. Fear of abandonment and rejection become engraved in our heart right from childhood. If you begin to see every challenge in your relationship as a threat that they'll leave you, it might be a sign that you're overthinking certain aspects of your relationship. You overthink every irregularity. Relationships and marriages sometimes hit the rocks because one partner reads a trivial situation wrong. If you're someone who believes that life runs on the principle of one size fits all, you're in for a rude awakening. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Instead of assuming the worst, flip the thoughts to the positive. What if this is the perfect person for you? What if your partner isn't playing you like others have in the past? What if your spouse's silence doesn't mean they're holding a grudge? Gaining awareness of your overthinking. If you want to get out of your own head, you need to acknowledge that being stuck in there is a real problem you need to deal with. Recognize that you can be a stumbling block in the path of your happiness through your thoughts. Don't spray the garden of your life with diesel fuel when there's a freshwater stream nearby. Being aware of your thoughts by paying attention to them is a journey you must be willing to take. Take a deep breath. Inhale slowly. Then exhale slowly. Done? Now, stop thinking about the process of doing that breathing exercise. You're overthinking again. Take a deep breath. Great. See, that wasn't difficult. Here's how to gain awareness of your overthinking in general. Pay attention to the trail of your thoughts. Being aware of how your thoughts begin and end can be a great reawakening for you. If you notice that you're replaying events or conversations between you and your partner, that's dangerous ground. You might end up exaggerating unimportant situations or building resentments that weren't there initially because you have a habit of rehashing events, replaying the day, and reconsidering every word your partner said. A soldier needs to know the wiles of an enemy before making a move. Right now, get into studying yourself mode. See yourself as a fighter who's bent on winning a battle. Your mind informs most of the decisions that control your life. Now it's time to fight. Do you have negative thoughts when you're stressed out? Do you find yourself feeling unworthy when you scroll through feeds on Instagram or nice pictures of your friends having fun on their WhatsApp stories? At what time of day do negative thoughts come to you? Does loneliness contribute to the back and forth your mind takes? These are ways to study and analyze how your thoughts come together in order to fight them. Acknowledge that you're exaggerating. Recognize that your what-ifs are preventing you from being kind to yourself. Instead of thinking about the worst-case scenario, acknowledge that you just might be feeding your mind with too many negatives. Overthinking is like bringing a bull into a china shop. It's taken too much potential damage and ruining the things that are more important to you. Are you thinking you might lose your husband if you don't scroll through his phone? Or that your wife must no longer love you because she's not answering your text? These are negative thoughts that can make your spouse feel suffocated and untrusted if they find out what you think of them. Love should be liberating, not suffocating. Take action to solve the problem. If there's a problem, the most reasonable thing to do is to fix it. The central purpose of this book is to show you how to go about fixing the problem. When you keep fixating on the bad thing that happened, you won't solve anything. You might even end up compounding the struggle with your overactive mind. Instead of constantly ruminating over the way your spouse responded to you at breakfast, have you considered talking to them about how it made you feel? Have you considered telling them how you'd like to be spoken to? Have you discussed with your partner your triggers? Do they know your boundaries? You'll save yourself a lot of headaches if you can be open to fixing a misunderstanding instead of rehashing it in your head. Practically speaking, now that you're beginning to realize why and how your thoughts keep hovering like an uncontrollable drone, you need to schedule moments for private reflection. Reflections are the opposite of rehashing. With reflections, you'll begin to see things more objectively. You'll see that other people aren't necessarily the problem, but you. Unlike rumination, which can lead you into a dark hole of self-sabotage, when you reflect, your eyes are open to how you can handle matters differently. You can set a time frame, say 30 minutes, for worrying, ruminating, and rehashing. Allow yourself to mourn and grieve over the plans that didn't go well. Once that period is over, dust yourself off and get into something more productive. The moment you discover that overthinking is taking up time you could be using for other important things, be quick to remind yourself that you'll revisit that distressing thought later, during your next rehashing session. This method can help you get started by keeping your mind from constantly wandering. The popular saying that an idle mind is the devil's workshop isn't far from the truth. This saying makes me imagine a creature with horns, holding a pitchfork and standing behind someone who just wants to sit and brood. Whichever way you choose to see it, when you create a vacuum, an empty space in your mind, something must occupy it. If you're engaged in projects that are worthwhile,